Okay, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone has been well. Welcome to our first joint committee meeting of the Waterfront Parks and Cultural and Youth and Ed. Just a few comments on logistics. The way we're going to handle this, we'll do, as the agenda is laid out, we'll do the Waterfront Parks and Cultural Agenda Committee meeting first. And then those of you who aren't on the Youth and Ed, you're welcome to leave at the conclusion. You're also welcome to stay. And I believe Tricia Joyce will be joining us to lead the Youth and Ed portion of the agenda. So with that, we might be short one for form purposes. I don't believe we have any resolution issues, so I think we can get started with the Waterfront Parks and Committee. Just by way of introduction, Andrew Zelter, the chair, joined by Paul Goldstein online, the co-chair of the committee, and Nesh James from our CB1 office staff. So why don't we kick it off? And I'm going to ask for sort of a few rules of engagement, given this is our first combined meeting and we want to try and be efficient. I'm going to ask our presenters to please try and be concise with your comments. We will entertain questions, but if we find that it's going on, I'm going to ask people to take their questions offline and direct them directly to the presenters, perhaps after the fact, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's kick it off. Let's begin with Jim Connors, Director of Operations, who's going to give us an update of the Perlman Performing Arts Center.
And you're going to drive the deck?
That's nice.
We just need you to make sure you speak up. Sure. We have some people on.
Speak to the house, please.
Well, thank you. Again, I'm Jim Connors, the Director of Operations for PAC NYC. Over here?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been here a number of times before, so I recognize a few faces. Sorry, I don't remember all the names. But I'm here to give you an update on how it's going at the Performing Arts Center. And, mostly to focus on what's coming up. Since we've opened, we've had over 200,000 people come in and view a performance in our fourth floor theaters. And many other thousands have come for conferences, events, as well as dining in the restaurant and outside on our outdoor terrace. And we have daily people who just come in, they're curious, we're open to the public on our second floor, which is the lobby. First, the public floor, we have lounge areas, tiny places for people to sit. People literally come in and do the loop. You can walk around the perimeter of the space on its own. So we can go to the next slide. So actually, most exciting, we are having on May 30th our second Family Day, which last year we welcomed a little over 3,000 people, mostly families, but everyone was welcome. We had outdoor activities, indoor activities. We had, engaging art projects that the kids and adults could do, all sorts of them, as well as some performances on a lobby stage. So we're bringing as well, and there was food, especially like unique food for this occasion in Metropolis, our restaurant on the second floor. So last year, the community board was able to reach out to the school districts to help us promote it. So I would love to, know how we can provide the digital content to do that. We have it pretty much ready. And my understanding is that it needed to go out by May 1st or May 15th in order to allow the school districts to do with it as they will before school comes to it.
I think it's a next one that we can.
Yeah, we've done it before. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Next slide. So we do have an outdoor plaza, Bloomberg Plaza, named by donors who contributed to our organization and named it in honor of Michael Bloomberg. On the right, you can see an image of Family Day from last year. On the left, you can see our tables and chairs that we put out in the warmer weather. It's going to get warmer. The tables are full, just the workday community, the residential community uses it throughout the week, weekends. We literally just added almost double the amount of seating out there, and we will be even adding really large square umbrellas. So when we hopefully get those really, really beastly hot days, people can sit there and have protection. Metropolis by Marcus Samuelson is the restaurant that we have on the second floor. It's about 110 seats indoors and another 70 outdoors on a terrace. It's all on second floor. That's our first public level. The terrace will open the Tuesday after Memorial Day. We may, if weather allows, we will have, a pre-opening on Cinco de Mayo. But again, weather permitting, we will promote that in social media and on our website. The restaurant has really spread its wings, and it's in its third or fourth year. It was kind of a break even, and, we put it we included the restaurant in the pack in order to, really for two reasons. One, to enhance and have a sort of holistic experience for our guests coming for theater and performances, but also to generate net revenue to help support our ability to produce and put on shows. So we are actually now in the black. They have started a flex and, come into their own. There's multiple menus. There's a terrace menu. There's a bar menu. There's a lunch menu. There's a dinner menu. There's a kids menu. There's a price fix menu for shows that warrant it. They have a special holiday menu to go for a Christmas Carol, which we had for a 6-week run around the holidays. So we're really pleased with how it is developing. As you know, you can't really see it from the street if you know the building. So we went with a celebrity-led chef, celebrity-led chef restaurant, so that hopefully we get folks in when we don't have theater on the fourth floor, but when it's actually pretty easy to fill up the restaurant. One of the things they have done in terms of programming, they've started to have DJs on most Thursdays and Fridays, which has been very well received. It moves outdoors on the terrace, weather permitting, as we get warmer. And then they have started a Subway Series concept. So they did Black History Month this year and Women's History Month, where they had Black chefs, many of them from like celebrated food trucks in 5 boroughs, to bring them in to work with Marcus or work with the executive chef in the restaurant. It was really very successful. A lot of folks showed up for it. And that will move out onto the terrace this summer, again, with celebrated chefs from food trucks. So it wouldn't make sense to not brag a little. We're still super proud that Cats, the Jellicle Ball, which was on our stages 2 summers ago, has gone to Broadway. It opened on Broadway about 2 weeks ago to great fanfare. Once again, it's a New York theater critics pick. I was talking to Bill Rausch, who was our artistic director just this morning and the co-director of this show, and said that every night it's full. So we're really proud of that. It's a great accomplishment. We hope we can do it again with another show for the coming season. So Unpacked we had about 2 weeks ago, which was a event to reveal and announce our season for this coming year. So from late January through, through April of next year. Next slide. So, and I have flyers. So we have I'm not going to go through all of these. You can, peruse these on your own. You can just pass that down. It'd be great. But we have a couple of blockbuster shows. Julia, Poison Queen of Palermo's, very interesting show. True story of a woman in the 16th century or 16th century in Sicily who assisted 600 women in poisoning their husbands or lovers. Abusive, true story. So it's a musical and it's written by the lead performer. And it's going to be a long run for 5-6 weeks. We have an extra week allotted if it's successful enough to have an extended run. So that'll be our first show. And Jennifer Nettles is the lead. Maybe you've heard of her as the lead singer and founder of Sugarland, sort of a country fusion band. But she's remarkable. Christmas Carol, we had that last year. It was very, very successful, and we hope we can continue to bring it back. It's the Christmas Carol from the Old Vic Theatre in London. We extended twice this performance last season. And I won't go through all of these, but I will point out the next two are associated with commemoration of the 25th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. So in the afternoon of 9/11, the New York Philharmonic and the U.S. Army Field Band Chorus will collaborate in our theaters on the fourth floor for a free concert. So we're really, really pleased to be able to do that. And obviously, we haven't quite figured out how tickets will be made available. It's free, but you need a ticket. And when we know, we'll let you know. That's how that works. And if there's a way to reach out to parts of the community for that. And then on the 13th, September 13th, on our front plaza facing Fulton Street, sort of right across from the Oculus, we will have the Broadway show Come From Away. That they will do a musical concert on stage with some limited seating, but we expect there'll be lots of standing room attendees. It'll spill out into the intersection of Greenwich and Fulton, which is kind of the heart of the World Trade Center. We're working closely with the Port Authority to secure the ability to do that, but they're very supportive. And of course, free lobby stage. So since we've opened, we've had over 450 free lobby stage performances, typically in the afternoon, occasionally Saturday afternoons with kid-oriented shows. So we continue to lean into that and helps to really enliven the lobby. I think there's another slide, which is just as more of the season. Again, you read about these, in the flyer that I handed out, and it's all on our website because we launched just last week. And that's it. So,
Sorry, your website launched last week, is that what you?
well, the new season, it's up on our website. So all the information you need. Not all the shows are available, don't all have the tickets for sale, but Julia certainly does.
Great, thank you. Questions?
Sounds fantastic, all of it. Is the theater part run, you mentioned Black and Red in terms of the restaurant, how's the theater doing in terms of?
It's doing well. I mean, look, theater is a money loser.
Right.
Almost by definition, unless you have a 4,000 seat auditorium in Broadway, which we don't. Our audiences range from 90 to 670. Literally, that's the range of the size of audiences we've had over the last few years. But it's doing great. Like, we're getting good reviews, we're getting good attendance, and that's what we're here for. So obviously, we gap the financial loss from ticket sales and ticket sales and the restaurant don't cover the cost,
Right,
but we gap the rest of the room philanthropic activity.
okay, so it's going well.
I should point out also, next time we come, we usually come every 4 to 6 months or so. We have just hired a director of education and civic alliances. So I've mentioned, you mentioned that this is a joint meeting with
Yes.
an education committee. So we will bring Jocelyn next time to introduce you to her, and she can talk about the programs, particularly with high schoolers, where she started, to put that together.
Sorry, you said education and
Civic alliances.
That's great to hear, if you don't want to lose you. And just another question, just as an aside, you mentioned having the tables and chairs outside. Who owns that property?
We have a 99-year lease of the property that the building sits on, and on the front plaza, which only goes to where the sidewalk begins, and you can't tell that it's 15 feet in from the curb, and we own up to the adjoining plaza of the east side of One World Trade Center. So, yes, we own it in that it's a 99-year lease.
Right.
There are limitations to what we can do there, of course, but we maintain it, take good care of it.
Thank you.
Yes.
any questions online? Just,
You mentioned the food trucks
Yes.
that you've had in the past. Will they be ongoing? And if so, will there be like a schedule?
So I might have miscommunicated. So that Subway series is a program that Marcus Amos and his team has put together for Metropolis. And they invite in fairly well-known chefs from food trucks and outer boroughs, but they don't bring their truck. They just bring themselves, and they get to like set up shop for a few days in our kitchen, working with the culinary staff. They love it. Everybody loves it.
Wow.
And then, our social media team and others promote it, and we've done quite well. I should point out that we will have food trucks for Family Day, so we will bring food trucks in for Family Day on May 30th to support you know, if as many as 3,000 people come and they're all hungry, the restaurant can't, right, can't support that. So we bring in 5 or 6 food trucks along Greenwich.
So you'll be doing that concept on a regular basis with the invited chefs coming in with
I
different?
hope so,
menus?
because it's been very successful, yeah. So again, we've had the
For
theme,
foodies, yeah.
Women's History Month, Black History Month. I'm not sure what the theme is for this summer. It might just be just celebrating food. But yeah, I think we'll continue to do it from time to time.
I have a question. So do any of the downtown schools ever use it for school or community events?
So I mentioned we just hired a director of education civic alliances. We've had a civic alliances program since we started. The director who had been with us had left. So we have like 4 or 5 anchor civic alliances. One of them, I think the most active one, is the Borough of Manhattan Community College. So we have a very strong relationship with them. We've had internship programs, I think 3 cycles of those. And I'm really proud because someone on my team who was an intern and then started working part-time, we just hired him full-time into an IT job. So particularly proud of that. The education director, the new person who comes from the education background, will absolutely be reaching out to local, nearby high schools and hopefully grow.
Even middle school and
Yes,
elementary school?
that is-
But there are a lot in the community
Yeah.
and sometimes they're crowded for events. So I don't know if the big space would be appropriate, but that would be between.
Well,
you
we
and
do make the lobby stage available, you know, for groups that want to come and have a performance. So Borough Manhattan Community College has had many performances, pretty much all musical, on the lobby stage, and they get a pretty rousing group of folks who, from the college, who want to hear it. And then obviously the public gets to hear it too.
So in the interest of time, can I suggest Eric as our last question, but anyone else to please reach out to Jim directly if you have questions or need further information.
I was looking at the aerial view of the pack. I'm wondering, how come there aren't any solar cells on the roof? I'm just, or you don't get enough sunlight? I'm just wondering, because I know that it's not used except for maintenance.
So,
Yeah.
very good question. We've started to look into it. And it sort of hit a roadblock. We hired a firm to come in and study how much sun we get. And we're, because of 3 and 4 World Trade Center, we're blocked like 30% of the time. And that's enough to make us marginal. Now, if we can get a grant that paid for the capital expenditure, we would love to. And so we reached out to NYSERDA and others. You know, it's not our day job, so it's hard to move forward, but great instinct because I would love to do that. Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you so much.
Of course.
Appreciate the update.
Thanks, folks.
And we will look forward to having your director of education come join us when, yes, next place. Great, thank you. All right, let's move on to the second topic, Hudson River Park Trust updates. I believe we're joined by Tina Walsh. Is that right? Online, okay, so we have Tina, Vice President of Partnerships and Engagement. So take it away, Tina.
All right, everyone, I'm just going to share my screen. Can you confirm that you're able to see blue screen 2026 programs?
Yeah.
Amazing.
You're good.
Great. So thanks for having me tonight. My name is Tina Walsh. I'm the Vice President of Partnerships and Engagement for Hudson River Park Trust. Excited to give you a sneak preview of what we have going on this season in the park. Many of you may know this, but we host over 500 free and low-cost cultural events throughout the park each year, with a huge range in the type of programming that it reaches, from music and dance to environmental science and volunteering. We're going to be officially announcing our programs next week, but I'm coming to you with a little bit of a preview of what to look at this year. Something that our programming teams work really hard at in particular is reaching the full expanse and entirety of the park's 4 miles. So Hudson River Park itself goes from Chambers Street up to West 59th. And this just gives you a sense of the expanse of programming. We're thinking not only about what programs work best in each space, but geographically, how do we reach the extent of the park? So this year you can see we're really nicely spaced out throughout the park's 4 miles, with of course some great programming that falls within CB1 as well. Music is going to bring back a lot of our favorites from previous years. from the very large scale productions like our Blues Barbecue Festival. That'll be back on August 15th again on Pier 76, a day full of music, barbecue, and lots of fun. Last year there was a rib eating contest and a hot sauce contest, so excited to see what else the team cooks up this year for that. And then another really successful expansion of our music programs has also been our Broadway by the Boardwalk program. As many of you know, Broadway is dark on Monday nights. There's no shows on Mondays. So we use that as an opportunity to work with talent based in Broadway shows and in local performances to put on shows in the Clinton Cove area of the park up around 59th Street. So it's kind of like in Broadway's backyard and able to show more of that. And then, so those are some of our bigger scale programs. And then there's also some really great recurring events like our Boardwalk Blues and Jazz at Pier 84. These are really perfect events where you can grab a picnic, have a great night to listen to some music with some really excellent local musicians. And those are both born out of a fantastic partnership the park has with the Jazz Foundation of America, who help connect us with local artists and help keep things, fresh each year with talent coming through. There's also going to continue to be a great slate of dance programs in the park. Sunset Salsa continues to be one of our most popular programs in the parks. That'll be back starting in July. And then we'll also have Dances Life, which is Latin hustle and a giant community dance party. Those are more on a monthly basis this year, starting in June. And then we also have the past few years been doing a Juneteenth celebration with the Ladies of Hip Hop. It's really a celebration of Black dance in American history and a really great moment. Thinking towards some of our science-focused programs, the event that really kicks off our season is our Submerged Marine Science Festival. This year in its 13th year, on May 15th and 16th, so we're only about 3 weeks away from that event. It's a 2-day festival. The Friday, we welcome over 1,000 New York City school students to join us for field trips during the festival. And then Saturday is the free public event that anybody can join. It's a space where we really highlight partnerships and ways that we're working with other science groups. So we have up to 40 different environmental groups from all over the region come out for this event, sharing wildlife, sharing research, and really connecting. Right after Submerge, we jump into our science season. So our wet lab aquarium opens up at Pier 40. And that's, of course, a space where we house local wildlife that are collected through some of the park's scientific research. So the wet lab is a space you can take a free tour. It's open several days a week. This year, we're actually adding Sundays. So we'll be open Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Saturdays, and then Sundays will also be open in the summer. Just recognizing that's when we're busiest and when there's the most folks looking to visit the space. Some of our other science programs this year, though, we're excited to bring back Big City Fishing. This is really a program that's also expanded to multiple neighborhoods in the park. We've been hosting it on Pier 26 in Tribeca. It's also really successful at Pier 51 near the playground in the village, and then up at Pier 97 for the past, since that's opened up last year. Beyond those programs, we also have a really fun series of adult-focused science programs called Science After Dark. These take place in our wet lab aquarium or in our Pier 57 Discovery Tank. And there's kind of two styles, a lecture style program, more like a Q&A. We invite a local expert. They share more about a topic connected to local marine and STEM. And then the other formatted program is more of like a hands-on workshop. So for example, in our wet lab, we have a fascinating fish lesson where you can learn more about how to identify the fish in the wet lab and get more of a hands-on experience learning from our science staff. Fitness will be coming back again this summer. Our Healthy on the Hudson series is one of our longer running series. 4 days a week, we'll have free fitness classes in the park, Monday through Thursday, for everything from yoga to conditioning and high interval training with some of our partners like Chelsea Pierce Fitness and Pure Gym this year. And then beyond that, there's things that kind of just fall into special event categories. So for example, this year we're doing a series of celebrations with our boathouses to really help promote all the great work they do to get people on the water and to bring, the community to see those resources and help share that. There are things like the West Side Fest, which is all groups along the west side of Manhattan doing cultural events focused on a weekend in July all together. And then we'll also have the MP3 experiment, Improv Everywhere back again. And that's kind of a really fun event where you get secret instructions in your headphones. Everyone's kind of doing the same thing in unison. It's a really fun event. We're bringing that to Pier 45 and 46 this year, which we're excited about. And then lastly, we just kicked off actually 2 weeks ago our volunteer season. So both our green and blue team meet on a monthly basis throughout the warmer months of the year. So starting in April and going through November. Our green team is focused more on the horticultural type programs, composting, weeding, planting, helping in some of our garden areas. Whereas our blue team is something we've really grown in the past 2 years. This is focused on some of our science and monitoring volunteering. So you can see on the left there's folks that are monitoring oysters. That's part of a community research project that we have going off the Gansevoort Peninsula, and also really important volunteer work that's happening. We also do shoreline cleanups as part of our blue team as well, which is exciting. So that's kind of where we are. This is my contact information, and happy to pause there if anyone has questions or anything else you'd like to follow up on.
Great, Tina, thank you for that update. We have a couple questions in the room. Start.
Ask what might you be doing in conjunction with Sale 250?
It's a great question. So the trust has been talking to the city, the state, and the federal planning committees involved in all of this. And we're expecting to hear more soon, especially connected to the land-based planning. We're expecting there's going to be vessels, historic vessels at Pier 25, which is really exciting. That's one of our piers that really accommodates vessels quite well. In all likelihood, that's probably going to be one of the Class B historic vessels at Pier 25. There's a lot of coordination that's happening about what vessels are being docked and where. So we're kind of waiting to hear a little more from the organizers, but based on the pier's height and the draft of boat possible at that space, that's what we're anticipating. So there definitely will be vessel presence in the park. Of course, the Intrepid is going to be another big hub where a lot of activity is happening in the park as well. And then the Manhattan cruise terminal area around Pier 79. So more to come soon, and I'm sure many will be sharing in addition to the trust.
The Intrepid doesn't go anywhere.
The Intrepid does not go anywhere, but there are many areas that other vessels can dock alongside Pier 86.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, yeah, that was a critical question. So you would be able to come back sooner than later to flesh out what's going to happen for that period during the July 4th and all of that.
Yeah, so essentially we're waiting on a lot from others. And I'm sure, honestly, I'm sure those groups will also want to come back and share more too. But as soon as we have more information, we're happy to share.
Okay, great. I have a couple of other things, just things have been in the news recently, and I just want to keep track of them. One was in light of what's going to be going on for 250. Is there any ability to negotiate this concern about closing down for the kayaking in the area at Pier 25? Sorry, 26. Was that any movement there?
Yeah, so just for folks that don't know, the Coast Guard put some proposed restrictions on the harbor for a portion of the days surrounding Sailforth 250 to create a security zone. The trust submitted a comment essentially recommending that they allow non-motorized boating within the embayments in the park. So that would be areas like the Pier 25 boathouse, Pier 97 boathouse, areas where there's kind of that area that can be sheltered and cut off at the US Pier headline was our proposal. We haven't heard anything since that. And there was an incredible community outreach and many folks that reached out in addition about with concerns about the boating. We haven't heard the latest from the Coast Guard, and we're hoping that they take that into consideration. But beyond the comments, we haven't heard anything further.
Would it be helpful at all if Community Board 1 considered a resolution in support of that, or is that not needed at this point?
I'm not sure if it's needed necessarily, just because the comment period is closed. And so the next
Okay.
kind of the Coast Guard will be issuing kind of an updated series of guidance after receiving all those comments. My understanding is they
Okay.
received hundreds of comments, so I think that might be part of why it's still being processed.
And just very quickly, Hudson River Park Advisory Council has been dealing with this issue. Tammy has been leading the advisory council for the last year, so she's kind of been on point with helping to pull together the comments and feed those through.
So it's
It's been
strong
very
enough.
active,
Yeah,
yeah.
good. So the other point that came up, and I think it was the Tribeca citizen, was concern over Pier 25 and the fact that there's no control of the dogs using the pier and the open green space there that is highly compromised, according to many people who wrote in. It was kind of an interesting issue, and I know, that, yeah, it hasn't been solved. What is the way to deal with that, and what is the next step there?
I'm sorry, you said it was what with the docks on Pier 25?
No, sorry, the open field on, sorry, Pier 26, sorry, excuse me, is
Okay.
being used by dogs, and there's no controlling of it, and there've been a fair number of complaints and concerns, and it's a legitimate one, particularly as summer is upon us. So just wanted to know, what is it that the trust does or can do to, ameliorate that situation?
Yeah, thanks for clarifying. So we do have a pretty clear no dogs off leash on lawns rule in Hudson River Park. So it's not authorized for a dog to be off leash and on lawn. The best thing that you can do when that happens is call it into our operations desk to report it. I know that the trust is aware of this issue and that we communicate and work with the Parks Enforcement Patrol to hand out summonses to people when dogs are off leash and when people are misusing spaces. As you know, with it being such a narrow park, there's limited space for people, limited space for dogs. So the people have their space, which is the lawn. The dogs have their space, which are the dog runs, with two of them quite close and adjacent at Pier 26. So if it continues to be an issue, I would say please call it in and flag it for our operations desk. And I know that the trust is working with PEP to ensure that it's being communicated.
Yeah, it's unquestionably an issue. I don't think anyone would know where to call or what number to call when that's happening. I myself have seen it many, many times. I'm just curious, do your office, do the PEP go out every day, every week? Well, how often do they go out, and do they issue fines, or how does it, I'm just curious, how does it, the enforcement, manifest? Like, how do you do enforcement for that?
So the parks, the PEP staff work really hard, really managing the full 4 miles of the park when it comes to summonses. So each, there's different shifts they'll go on and do trips through the park where they are checking certain areas. Staff, and just due to other kind of known problems and issues, they will check on certain issues and areas. If there's a call in about something that is broken or something that needs to be addressed, they'll go directly to a certain pier or area when it's called in and dispatched from our operations desk. But typically, I would say they're doing kind of regular rounds through the park, in a golf cart, in a smart car. They're kind of traveling throughout the full 4 miles. So it's hard to say how many times that means they have the touch point of each area during a shift. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I know that it's a regular kind of circular throughout, the full round the clock shifts that they have. And then when there are immediate issues reported, they go and send someone on site.
Are they authorized to give a ticket?
They're authorized to give summonses. Yeah.
Summons,
So they can,
is there money that?
they are ticketed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the amount for a dog off the top, for like a dog off leash off the top of my head, but that is a ticket with a fine.
And again, a great forum for this is the advisory council. I don't recall that this was on the agenda tonight, but I will communicate it to Tammy and make sure that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
that'd
should
be-
follow up, yeah.
I'll pass it along too. I know I saw the article in the Tribeca Trib about this, and I know it's something that folks have reported.
Can I ask a question?
Are you done?
Thanks. Yes, I am, thank you.
Hi, I'm pretty avid tennis player, and I'm part of different tennis groups in Manhattan. Who actually is in charge of the tennis courts on the Hudson River Park? Is that you or is it the Parks Department? It seems like no one's ever really there managing the courts, and people come, first serve, and literally wait hours to play. And I wonder if any thoughts has been given to pros and cons of establishing a reservation system as opposed to people waiting 4 or 5 hours in the high season to play. I mean, I've heard that people actually pay people sometimes to sit there and wait for them. So I'm not sure that that's the best system.
I appreciate you flagging that. Those are managed by Hudson River Park Trust. And right now the system is a first come, first serve system. We have looked into and considered other pathways, and ultimately both this and pickleball, we've decided are first come, first serve based on management. I know that we've put some signage to kind of encourage time limits per match or per playing. But as of now, there's no plans to update it into a reservation system.
I mean, I think people honor the time limits because they have people waiting, and if people play over an hour, people get very upset. But the idea is that people come and they line the benches along the river, and I've heard that the time for waiting is just, it makes it impossible for a lot of people to be able to enjoy those courts.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Sorry, sir, just before I come back to
Yeah.
Allison, anyone else?
I do.
Francis?
I don't know whether it's for the transportation committee and because, in terms of, thank you for the Downtown Alliance that has the connection down here, but in FIDI, there's a lot of senior citizens that may not be able to walk all the way over to your wonderful programs. So I was wondering if there was any thought given, any extension to the downtown connection so it could go up a little further, so some of the seniors all the way over on, in the FIDI area. I know Pier 17 is trying to do, some of the activities that you have there. And I know that way of getting there is to take the 15 up to 14th Street and then take the crosstown bus. But I was just wondering if that was in anybody's thoughts.
To be honest, I'm not totally familiar with that transportation initiative. It definitely falls outside our jurisdiction, but if there are certain community groups that you think would be interested in learning more about our programs and a path to get there, I'm happy to add them to kind of our outreach and thinking about, I guess if it's a matter of like, is it the bus route? Is it, I can't really do much about programming outside of our windows, but am open to thinking about, is there a collaborative program where we're trying to create bus access for certain programs?
There's a couple of senior centers on that side and.
So can I again propose we make this the last question, and then people can follow up directly?
Yeah, in light of that, I was just curious about the city bank or city core, ferry spot. On Pier 25. What's happening with that? Is that still actively used? And I know that this board has continually asked for potential use of that and for sports teams and going over to Governor's Island, actually, one of Andrew's good ideas. What's going on with that? Just the ferry system.
Yeah, it's not in active use right now, and to be honest, I'm not sure if there's any conversation about further use of it at the moment. I can take that back and see if what the latest is, but my understanding is it's quite a small dock and limited in its use and potential. It is part of why it's.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's there, it was used, and it is tremendous in my mind, waste of space and energy to not use it in some way that would benefit the community. So, there's a few things we're taking back, the sort of problem of the open field with dogs on it, this question of having people be able to access things more readily, and the fact that you have a ferry spot there would be an obvious thing to do. I guess, the 250 that we heard about. So I assume we're gonna come back on this, but it would be great if we, I don't know, if we potentially have to have a resolution on some of these items, but they come up frequently in many years now on this very question. I'm just wondering if we could push forward a little bit more aggressively. And I guess that is for Tammy because she is the head of the advisory council. But that would be, I think those are all really important matters. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I'll share back as well just to get updates, especially on that doc. I'm just not sure the latest where that is, but yeah, we'll make sure that we continue the conversation. I know Tammy's at the advisory council tonight. So that we had kind of double duty split between us all.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, everyone.
Okay, so I believe we have two more topics. And again, I'd like to try and get through these pretty efficiently if we can. So our next topic, Plaza for the Community Fellowship Program, Jonathan Sterling. Hi there.
Do you have the, what should I stand in with that?
I think that's fine. Just speak toward the L.
Okay. My name is Jonathan Sterling. I'm a student of landscape architecture at City College. And with the planning fellowship at Fund for the City of New York, I helped City Hall Park Conservancy to look at the Northeast Plaza. So the chat, I love it so much. I think it really encapsulates what's going on. So what we're dealing with is a lack of investment in infrastructure, real growth in the residential sector in this area, and the removal of the vendors from Brooklyn Bridge, which I know you all know this is your part, but I'll try and quickly get through it. So only 24, all the vendors were taken off Brooklyn Bridge. They either went to Dumbo or they came to Northeast Park, and they sort of created this informal market, which hasn't left. And it's also a multi-agency problem. So the collaboration is crucial in this situation. So, history. This has actually been a problem since like late 1800s, early 1900s, when the Brooklyn Bridge was built. There's never been any real attempt of placemaking or planning, and it continues today. So, as you all know, there's municipal buildings around the plaza. There's residential on the other side of the park and below, and as it's the gateway to Brooklyn Bridge, tourism is a big part of this plaza. And like you all know how it's been changing here. So like residential has grown like 20% in the last 10 years. And this is to continue with the 467 tax abatement. Tourism, even though it collapsed during the pandemic, it bounced back, and 26 is going to be a record year for tourism. So this problem is not going to go away in the plaza. So stakeholders. The space is owned by New York City Parks right up to the curb, and that's quite an important distinction. DOT is around the outside, and also they go through the park. MTA has entrances on the space, and all the infrastructure, pretty much all the infrastructure underneath the park is MTA, City Hall Station. But also there's other vendors. There's the City Hall Park Conservancy, there's Friends of City Hall Park, and the street vendors. With the new mayor, like street vendors are very important, so they're going to have influence in this situation. So with my side business, wonder if it's design or a management problem. And like I see that construction fence around the MTA ceiling, that's been there for years. A lot of the paving is broken and loose. But in terms of management, I think that's enforcement. And even though like there's the police, the park police, Department of Sanitation, they're all in charge of enforcement, but very little is happening. So it's kind of like a land of the lawless here. Like there's this void that's been filled by vendors and food vendors. So in terms of enforcement, it really starts to go up at the beginning of 2024, which we know that's when the vendors have to leave the bridge. But there's also this seasonal trend. correlates with tourism. We did a survey which was quite successful. We spoke to residents and people who work around accessible. We asked them questions like, you know, if you avoid the East Plaza, why? And what we got back was it was very clear that the problem was the vendors. They wanted the vendors out. They wanted to relocate, and there's lots of select comments. The vendors are ruining what's a beautiful place. This was very common, and I think it's important to realise that this isn't necessarily the fault of the vendors. It's the issue with the vendors, but it's not necessarily their fault. So I'm going to look at different plaza precedents throughout the city, Parks Department, and Plaza. So I made this map. Now you can see, I did the whole 5 boroughs. I think it's important to see that there's this concentration of bids, plazas, and conservancies, you know, the bottom half of Manhattan and the downtown Brooklyn area. Obviously, this is where a public-private partnership could be more effective. There's more money, more funding there. But the City Hall Park is also in a very high income area. So I think it's important to think, why can they not, why funding that the other areas have, like downtown areas, the person you just had before? So I looked at other plazas throughout the city. Corona Plaza has a similar problem to the Northeast Plaza. There's an informal market was created. There was lots of noise and smells. So the Queen's Economic Development Council got together with the DOT and they created an association with some of the vendors. Some of the vendors were invited to join this. It operates with very strict guidelines, and really importantly, I think, there's a manager. There's a market manager who controls, so the space is programmed and it's also controlled. I spoke to Steve Davis from the Project for Public Spaces, and he feels this is very important for the Northeast Plaza. Like, do you want this informal or informal market? What would work for the Northeast Plaza? What's the identity of the space in terms of the neighbourhood? So it's Bogardas, which I'm sure you guys know is like 2 blocks away. Now, they bought this concession stand. They had to give it to the DOT straight away because it's on DOT property. But the money from that concession stand goes into the maintenance and the management of this space. Now, this space is considered very popular. It's been a great success in the Plaza program. And Emily Whitenhoff of the DOT thinks that this could be a possible solution at Northeast Plaza as well, like a curated market. And I also spoke to Hudson Square Bid, which is too far from you guys. The takeaway I got from her was from Samara Karasik was that they can't even work on the other side of the street if it's outside the Hudson Square Bid. Which kind of makes sense with the Downtown Alliance, like they kind of border the City Hall Park. There's no reason for the Downtown Alliance to go any higher because there's no commercial property, there's no one to fund if they go any higher. I quickly looked at POPs as well. Like the one on the right is like 2 blocks from you. It's got a totally different energy to Northeast Plaza. And I think that's because the management structure. So it's parkland. So we have to look at different conservancy models and how it could work. So there's 3 models. Tropic, like Central Park, Corporate, Bryant Park, and Civic, like Prospect Park. I think that City Hall Park Conservancy is like a civic model because it's all about community engagement, it's about volunteer days. It's often also civic public-private partnerships. They don't have the same funding as the first. Now this is important because if you look at conservancies, the Parks Department likes conservancies because they can have concessions. The revenue from the concessions goes back into maintaining that space, managing and maintaining it. For example, Bryant Park here, They made 20 million in 23. 100% of that money goes back into maintaining the space. Madison Square Park, which is kind of the same size as City Hall Park Conservancy, 100% of that 904,000 went back into the park to maintain it. Parks Department, when they have concessions, it goes into the general fund, so they don't keep that. So they're not really incentivized to create more concessions. If you look at the table on the right, London Parks, they made 1,800 per acre. San Francisco's like 1,500, whereas New York City's 400 per acre. So there's a problem here, you know, that I think the parks needs to deal with. And like one recommendation that I think could be made is that, like in terms of policy, the charter can be updated so that the revenue from concessions the parks makes should go back to the Parks Department. That way, the money that the revenue they make from there can go into parks that can't get private funding, like City Hall Parks or parks further out in the city. But for Northeast Plaza, I think then the next steps are definitely diligent enforcement of vendors. This is crucial. But I think if you look at the long term, I think there needs some kind of a steering committee with all these different stakeholders. Long-term temporary design solutions, potential for funding. But really, I think really important also is looking at this role of a plaza manager. I think there's examples for kiosks around the city, like Bryant Park here. But I think in terms of market stallholders, if you look to Europe, like here, like on the left, that's that's the left bank of the Seine. They've got all these stallholders. They clear up at night. It's very simple and clear where stallholders are. It's controlled, just like the one in the middle. So I think in terms of if you were to set up an association, there's definitely precedents that you can look to. And so I've been doing this for like 7 months now. And while I've been doing this, things have, like the New York City Parks, for example, they set up a concession stand at McCarran Park, which is very popular and very successful. The DOT is changing the bike lanes. There are bike lanes around the plaza to create better flow. The MTA has allocated funds to the ceiling of the plaza. And also Gotham Park's been allocated funds to redesign underneath Brooklyn Bridge. So I think there could be a real momentum here that I think City Hall Park could take on, to take advantage of the opportunities that the Brooklyn Bridge and the tourists from the Brooklyn Bridge could bring to that space. And that's pretty much it. So thanks for listening. And any questions? Thank you.
What is the principal source of complaints regarding the vendors on the plaza? What is the principal complaint?
I think it's mainly noise.
Coming from?
Vendors, food vendors, noise. Oh, that was just about vendor complaints.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's noise.
They have music.
Well, sometimes.
Okay, I'm just gonna make a wild, I don't know the court background on this. But if I walk out there with a speaker and a microphone, I'm gonna get asked for a PA permit.
Yeah.
Temporary measure, like you don't got a PA permit, you don't use it as a PA. Because it's addressing the public and that's your source of complaint, principal source of complaint. Temporary measure. But if everybody can hear it, that's too loud.
Which I think plays to the enforcement issue that was highlighted, right?
Yeah, and I've never seen a PA permit demanded of somebody with a sound box. But might be worth a try.
Yeah, I think the problem is like the police come through, the park police, the Department of Sanitation, they all come through. People scatter, some people scatter, but then they come back 10 minutes later. So I think that you really have to have an organized,
That might be a different issue,
it's informal versus formal market. So if you want to keep some kind of a market there, I think it needs to be more programmed rather than how it is applied. If that's the way you want to go.
Francis?
I think enforcement is a bigger issue for the city because there's that enforcement there, because I walk through there after my meetings, and some of the vendors are licensed, some of them aren't, and they don't care if they give us that feedback. Yes, they do play their boom boxes or whatever, loud music, but I think they've been told about that and it's cut down a lot. The garbage pickup, we noticed that there are more vendors out there. It used to be just the carts, and now the people set up the T-shirts and, it's like they're taking over the other half of the park. But in terms of the, maintenance of the park is scattered. But enforcement is, for all these different areas, you need enforcement, and that's the issue. Bottom line.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments in the room? Did you have them?
No.
Anyone online? Can I just add one question? Can I ask you to clarify, I might have missed something you had said, clarify the change in policy? Slide you had regarding,
Oh, okay. The Parks Department, in terms of the Parks Department revenue.
yes,
All the revenue from concessions in the Parks Department goes to the general fund.
you're
And
saying
there's
it's
core,
correct.
yeah, it should be going to, and I've spoken to the Office of Management and Budget, and they say if the Parks Department sort of gets a plan together, some of that revenue can come back. But at the moment, it goes to the general fund,
Okay,
which means they're not incentivized to.
thank you. Okay, all right, great, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate the update. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I believe our last topic for this evening, unsanitary conditions at Water and Wall Street Dog Run.
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
So can you stand up and speak into our owl? Thank you.
I'm a resident down here and I have a bunch of dogs and you don't have a dog, you're not gonna realize. We only have one dog run in outside of Battery Park City. Battery Park City has one like on every street corner. You go over there, dog run, dog run, dog. We have one at the end of Wall Street, under the FDR. And for years it's never taken care of. I've sent, pitches and complaints to 311 over the years. More recently, I've been more aggressive with it, like every week. I get a response that they addressed the issue, they closed it, I go down there, they didn't address the issue.
Who is they?
311. I know they say they gave it to the Parks Department and they said they addressed the issue, they cleaned it, but they actually didn't. Most dog runs will have is something, somebody come through, lock it up, or they hose it down and keep it relatively clean. There is no hose working there. It's never turned on, and I was told that it got turned on because of the homeless people were using it, but there was always an excuse for something there. They don't lock the park at night, so anybody can get in there. I've talked to other dog owners. Sometimes they want to use it, but they can't use it because there's people hanging out in there. Like I said, the picture, a bunch of cigarette butts, and they don't have a dog, so it's just a hangout place. And the reason it's a hangout place is nobody goes there. If we went there with their dogs, they wouldn't hang out there. That makes sense. So it also would keep it cleaner too, but everybody would bring their dogs there, but they're not bringing their dogs there because it's just filthy. I mean, the bigger issue is that we need another dog run down here. Here in Battery Park, address that issue here. Yeah, I think it was a great idea. They tried to put a dog run there, but it was really bad. Underneath the FDR drive, it's loud, it's noisy. The pigeon droppings. Again, if the hose was working, like dog owners like myself and other dog runners, we would go in there and just hose it down, and everyone hoses it down and it stays clean. So I don't know how you can address that with the Parks Department or. I don't know what to do at this point. I mean, I want to use it, but we can't use it. I know and more dogs are down here.
Right.
Because there's more residents.
Parks Department.
It's on the Department of Sanitation.
The Parks Department said it says Parks Department, we told the 311, and they're the ones who said the Parks Department addressed the issue.
I know in other parks, or in other areas, the dog runs our parks department. So the one by Corliers is parks.
I think it's all Parks.
I think so. And I was
It's
gonna-
very hard to find on 311.
It just means picking up dog defecation goes to parks, not to sanitation. I don't have a dog.
My understanding is maintenance and cleaning of the dog park is a parks department.
Yeah, the signs outside,
Yep.
the dog run says Parks Department, the rules and regulations.
So to your question of what to do, coming here and bringing the issue to our attention is one of the steps to take. And what we will do, we'll reach out to parks, we'll invite them to come to our next meeting and specifically update us on what they're doing in this particular space.
That's how it goes.
That's one step.
They can't tell me what.
Well, that might be part of our conversation. That might be part of our conversation, how they can make that functional, because people who do use it for the dog run purpose would take a role in helping to clean up if they had the tools and resources available. Yeah, so that's part of the conversation that I've noted here.
We do have an update from Zach, our district manager. He spoke to the Downtown Alliance earlier today, and he brought up this very situation. And they have been working to send out their books to help the homeless persons in the area, to just kind of like help them to, find other spaces, like spaces. To help with the trash. And that's all the others.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's people there all the time. A few times there have been people there. The bigger problem is keeping it clean with the park.
But I just want to-
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's not like it's an encampment by any means. I don't remember, but I'm glad that she said address that. It's just keeping it clean. Again, if you own a dog, any other dog run in this city, someone is there cleaning it, they close it down, they're just spotless. Except for this one.
Are there any questions on mine? If not, I think we have one more in the room. Can we go to the committee first? So last two questions, Eric, and then
So what I hear, I live nearby, and what I think is the problem is there's no regular routine maintenance, right? It shouldn't be fix the problem. It should be, let's say somebody there in the morning, hose it down, make sure it's good, clean up whatever homeless debris was left over, and then somebody at night to make sure. So if we have a routine maintenance schedule, then that should be the problem. I mean, that would solve it, right? You can't always account for, bad dog owners or homeless, but at least if you have a regular check-in so that a regular maintenance schedule. I mean, have you seen a maintenance, like a regular maintenance check on periodically?
No, that's why
Not at all.
311
It should-
time, because
okay.
when I bring my dogs there and I look and it's a disaster, I can't go in, And again, I don't know, it's not a homeless, it's the Parks Department is not cleaning it. Like most dog runs, and I think this one might be, they would come around, they lock the gates so no one could take their dogs in there, get in there. And then in the morning, they would either hose the place down or that night. It's just vacant. It's a vacant.
And
enclosure.
not at all an excuse, but a partial explanation. We know that Parks is struggling with being able to staff and keep up with it's on all of their facilities citywide. We just see it in terms of condition of fields and cleanliness and repairing damage to the fields. So it's an issue, but we have to figure out how to work through it. So you're right. Are you good? Last question, please,
Hi.
or comment?
Hi. It's Caroline Summers. I'm from the Tribeca Trib, but I also wanted to speak as a dog owner. I had a dog 3 years ago. And I don't mean to be like, the sky is falling, but that dog park is a lost cause. It's not even worth trying to clean. It's disgusting. It's under the FDR. It's full of pigeons.
But it's the only dog park that we have down here. It's
No,
all
okay.
lost cause if someone took care of it.
Yes.
You live down here,
Honestly,
it's
this
just
isn't
like
that sure I want to debate here tonight.
No,
I
no, no,
understand
I'm
the
not trying to, okay. I'm just gonna say that the pier, by the pier, near the old tin building, that's where everyone takes their dogs. No one goes to the other one.
Because the other one's a filthy mess, and then bring over the tin building, if we clean the dog park up, it'd be better, just not, it's not a lost cause.
Again, I really don't want
It's
to
very
debate
upsetting.
tonight except this dog park. What we've heard is there's an issue with this particular space. We'll reach out to Parks, we'll have a conversation. I know there are discussions about other locations for dog parks on that side of the.
Or over here,
Um,
City Hall Park
Right,
area.
yeah. That's a separate conversation, and we understand that dog runs, dog resources are important for our constituency, so something that's always front and center. But as to the immediate issue of this particular location, message received, and we'll follow up.
It's not a lost cause.
Could I just say one thing?
Let's wrap it up, please.
Yeah,
We gotta-
only that, I think the dog run is good because a lot of the dog owners bring their dogs over to the athletics fields up by, the soccer field and football field. And that's not really a good place for them. They should have their own space for a dog run.
And there's signage at all the front fields that dogs aren't permitted to go there. So anyway.
Maybe signs, but people
So-
bring them there.
With that, I think that concludes the Waterfront Parks and Cultural. Thank you, everyone. So I think everyone's, guys, we're wrapping this up. If you need to take, sorry, can I ask to take this outside, please? Thank you. Everyone's welcome to stay. Otherwise, please, let's transition quickly so that we can get to Tricia's committee.
All
Thank
right,
you.
moving along.
So Waterfront members, you're welcome. You can stay or you can head out.
Is Kelly McGuire here?
Yes.
That is Kelly McGuire. Great.
Also, just also, if you're heading out, please don't loiter near the door in the hallway. Thank you.
Okay.
Take the conversations down the
But please, can I be articulating another dog park to a future?
Of course.
All right, moving on, we're gonna introduce Kelly McGuire, who is nice enough to join us, and thank you for your patience. Who gives us his report. Kelly, for those of you who are here for Waterfronts, is the district superintendent for District 2, and he used to be the beloved principal of Norman Hatton Community Middle School. And he's just here to give us an update on what's happening in our District 2 schools, which are all of our schools. So whenever you're ready, Kelly.
Great. This is an okay spot.
Great spot.
Val was looking at me. So thanks everybody for having me tonight. I'm happy to provide a brief report and then also answer any questions that you may have in regard to New York City schools that are here in District 2. Would like to just share that we've had some interesting and fantastic times over the past couple of months here in District 2. One of the things that has been a big priority for Chancellor Samuels, that is an extension of work that we've done in the past, is that of our Civics for All. District 2 has become a Civics for All district. And right prior to the spring break, we had our big Civics for All event at the Met Museum. And there were 4 students from District 2 who made it to the finals in the Soapbox Challenge. The Soapbox is this opportunity for students to write an original story or essay, present that story or essay to the broader community. And 2 of our students actually were named finalists, 2 out of that 4. So having 4 students in the finals at the Met Museum, where hundreds of students from across the city were able to present was a big deal. And then having 2 finalists who were able to take that honor was a big deal as well. I want to share a little bit also in regard to some updates. Principals play an extremely important role in our district. While not here in Community Board 1, Principal David Getz, who served as the principal of Eastside Middle School for over 20 years, passed away last week. He was a beloved member of our community, and he also touched the lives of many of our school leaders. So anybody who has been working in the system knew David and really appreciated and respected the work that he did. We also have a couple of retirements that have been announced. Principal Ronnie Nager of PS 89 in Battery Park City has announced her retirement. Ronnie was it's been our longest standing principal currently in the role, over 25 years as principal of 89. And Medea McAvoy, who started East Side Elementary School on East 63rd Street, is also retired. So as District 2 Superintendent, I've had this awesome responsibility of working to support communities as they transition into new leadership, and something I take very seriously and work really closely with the different school communities on. It's an exciting time for these folks who are retiring, and we're really supporting the school communities as we work through this leadership transition. We also have Summer Rising. Families are starting to hear about the different Summer Rising offers that are coming in right now. So we are offering Summer Rising downtown here at PS 124, PS 1, the Peck Slip School, and then also middle schools, 75 Morton, Baruch Middle School, and on the Upper East Side Middle School. We're also offering Summer Rising on the Upper East Side at PS 6, on Roosevelt Island at PS 217, and in the Hell's Kitchen area at PS 111. So we've consistently served about 3,000 students in Summer Rising here in District 2, and we are expecting that again for the coming year. Just this past week and a little bit into this week, our schools have participated in New York State testing. It is testing season. And with the move from paper tests to computer-based tests for both ELA and math, and as well as science in 5th grade and 8th grade, we now have a window of time in which schools get to schedule when it is that they want to administer those exams. Again, it's all computer-based. The window is from April 6th through May 15th. This flexibility actually has been quite helpful. The other thing that is, if I could tell you about the detail that used to go into administering paper tests, I would have you bored to tears. But there were hours and hours and hours that went into just preparing for those exams, packaging those exams when they were done, sending those exams off to be scored, scoring those exams at big scoring centers where each paper was gone through by an individual. So we are past that and now into computer-based testing. And that has made for a much more efficient exam process. I'd just like to acknowledge that there is a possibility for students being able to take a paper exam if they have a 504 plan or an IEP that dictates that they are in need of that support. We do provide that support. Another item that I'd just like to share is that you may have heard, we released an AI policy, artificial intelligence policy from our central office. Currently, we're in the middle of a feedback period. So there is an opportunity for families to provide feedback, families and staff to provide feedback in regard to the first wave of the artificial intelligence policy issued by our central team. That runs through May 8th. This first chunk of AI policy that has come out really centers on the practice of adults in schools as institutions, and not so much policy in regard to whether or not you can use AI to write your history papers. This is really intended on providing safety to students, protecting their data and privacy. And so we have put forth a first wave of policy on AI, again, seeking feedback, and then there will certainly be more to come over the year. Our middle schoolers just received word of their middle school offers. We have close to 8,000 students, over 8,000 students who have received offers here in District 2. That we're in the middle of this enrollment period right now, and that enrollment period will last all the way up until the start of the school year. Some families have placed themselves and their children on wait lists, just their children, not themselves, have placed their children on a wait list for a school that is maybe higher in their ranking. But over the past few years, we have done well in terms of being able to accommodate families' top 3 choices in the middle school process. And we think that we'll be able to do that again. So the enrollment offers just came out. Looking forward to getting more solid numbers in terms of how many students received offer to their first school as second choice, third choice. That's coming. And then one other item that I'll share, and then I'll be happy to take any questions, is we are awaiting information in regard to class size reduction planning. Many folks are aware that New York State has issued a class size reduction legislation requiring all schools to reduce class size within a 5-year period. We are still working under the original timeline, which mandates that next year, 80% of our classrooms across New York City are to be within the class size limits. It's going to require some work. We know that in order to meet class size reduction numbers, our schools are going to need to hire many, many more teachers, rethink the way that they're programming in their schools. We think that our current numbers in District 2 sit below 50% of our classrooms meeting class size reduction. So it is requiring a sizable effort to get to close to 80%. We will not get to 80% in the coming year, but the way that this evaluation of New York City public schools is done by New York State is that we have to meet 80% across the system. So there are some districts that are more able to do that than others. We have a robust population of students in our district. We have robust enrollment in our district, and so that makes it hard without opening up new spaces and looking for new ways to serve and support students in the district. So we think that we're going to get an update on the level of class size reduction funding coming soon, and that will enable teachers to hire, will enable principals to hire more teachers to meet those class size reduction numbers. And with that, I will just close out, and thanks very much for the opportunity to come and speak with you all, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Kelly.
Sure.
Anybody have any questions? Andrew?
So apologies, I have a couple. But
Sure, yeah.
Hopefully they're pretty quick.
I came over here.
Thank you. So as it relates to principals and replacing those that have retired,
Yeah.
what is, high level, what is the process? Is it an application process? Do you identify candidates and reach out? How does that work?
Yeah, it is the responsibility of the superintendent to hire what they call an interim acting principal. That person does not go through any formal process, but it is a step in the process that helps to ensure that the whole community knows who's going to be leading the school come the fall. So we identify that person in the spring. That person works with the existing principal to make sure that we're ready to go in the fall. And then in the fall, when the principal actually has retired, because a principal usually stays on through the summer, then we begin the formal process of interviewing. And anybody who has a building license, there's a teaching license and a building license. Anybody who has a building license is able to apply for a job that is posted publicly. And then the school leadership team of the school becomes the hiring committee, and they conduct the interviews of the candidates until someone is appointed to it.
Got it. Great, thank you. Second question. So you mentioned the transition to computer-based testing, which makes sense, and then you added you provided commentary around flexibility to do paper testing for IEPs, and you said 504s, is that?
If that's a part of their students' IEP or program.
What about general computer literacy for underserved communities? Is that at all in consideration as part of?
Well, it's a consideration, it's not actually a consideration that would lead to, students who do not have had as much access to computers that would shift them back onto paper. What it has done is the computer-based testing has really changed the way that schools prepare students for the exams, where they're not just looking at content, but really getting students on computers more often to write essays, practice taking multiple choice exams, practicing how to navigate through different systems like that. So schools have definitely taken time to do that.
Got it. Okay, sorry, two more quick. So did I understand you don't yet have the stats for how many of the 8,000 middle school students matched their top three?
I don't yet.
Okay.
No.
And then,
I was trying to look through the spreadsheet, but it is too many pieces.
thank you. And then last question, so, District Two itself won't hit the 80% by 2027. If the city does not, and I know you mentioned it's an average of everything across the city, is there any consequence?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
It's not like there's funding that may be at risk, or could there be?
I think that everybody wants to try to make this work.
Sure.
Including the state legislators that put this into place. And, you know, there is not a reduction of funding, obviously wouldn't have too positive an impact on our ability to do so. But, you know, there are many things that are being negotiated right now in Albany. And, you know, I can see ways in which the state legislature may or may not want to play ball with other things that are happening there. But the great news is that there are just anecdotally places in our district, schools where I just on the outside looking in would think that it'd be really, really difficult in order to try to reduce class size, and principals working with their teachers and school leadership teams have come up with some pretty creative ideas. And it doesn't involve, you know, giving up the library. So it's
Got it. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to know.
That's okay. Alice? This is my first human ed in years, and my daughter's now graduating from graduate school in 2 weeks, so this is, I preface this with I know nothing about what I'm about to ask, but I've always been very curious. Our chair has often mentioned how we have too many seats and not enough school seats in our district. It seems when I entered the board years ago, we were desperate for more seats and we built a lot of schools. At this point, where are we with the number of seats in the district? Are we ahead? Are we behind? It's never clear to me. Maybe it should be, but it's not.
Yeah, well, a few years ago, I might have said that there's a brief window there, right? Like it's, we had pretty robust enrollment prior to the pandemic. The pandemic obviously had a big impact on the number of school-aged kids and families living within our district and choosing New York City public schools, including District 2. For a moment there, our schools, many of which were very under-enrolled. Now we are in this new kind of configuration where the statistic around the percentage of seats filled has shifted a bit, because we are now looking at this new class size legislation where instead of in middle school having the ability to put 32 students in a classroom, now it's 23 is the maximum number. So we are having to, so that target has like shifted a little bit, and that use of building has shifted a little bit, or quite a bit actually. And so, you know, to the point where we're having a difficult time meeting this new class size legislation. But there are neighborhoods where we are kind of bursting at the seams. And there are neighborhoods where we have really lost enrollment and have not seen numbers of students coming back.
In this district.
Chinatown is a neighborhood within District Two that is.
Sorry, District Two.
Yeah, within District Two.
Well, but maybe that's up. Can you just clarify
Yeah.
what District Two?
Sure.
Orders, because I'm not sure everyone's entirely familiar. with
Yeah. So does CB1 cover part of District One as well, right?
Just
the tiniest bit, like 2 or 3 blocks.
Okay.
the rest is all.
Street.
Yeah.
It's all the way up,
So
yeah.
if you picture Manhattan, District Two starts at 96th Street on the
Yeah.
Upper East Side, goes all the way down, cuts across at 59th, and then everything below. And then there's a little notch kind of between the Williamsburg and Manhattan bridges that is District One. District One is quite small. It's less than 5,000 students and I think 19 schools. where
I
there are-
should have been more specific, and thanks for pointing that out. What I guess I wanted to say was within our geographic district, not the school district.
Yeah,
So in other words, in our
Community Board
community
One.
board one.
Yeah.
What's the enrollment situation?
Yeah. Community Board One had lost a lot of students. There were a lot of students downtown after the pandemic. Our enrollment did go down quite a bit, almost universally across. I think that there are a few schools that did not apologize. Battery Park City is within
276.
Yeah.
276, so 276 is big zoned pre-K to 8 school, and their enrollment has remained pretty strong throughout. Chinatown is the neighborhood in which we've seen the greatest drop in enrollment, and that's actually been going on for quite some time. We have schools there where there used to be 900 students and now are serving only 600 students. The big project that we're kind of in the middle of a big project right now in terms of with working with the community and community-based organizations. So we do have a lot of data and information that is fresh in regard to that neighborhood. And one thing that I can say is that the number of children born in that neighborhood, in the zones of the schools that are in the Chinatown subdistrict, is very, very small. We looked at a couple of schools where literally there were 30 kids born within that zone 5 years prior to their entering kindergarten. So you have these huge buildings. The Confucius Towers is like a great example of it. PS 124, basically you just had floods of kids coming from that building to attend PS 124, and they're just current children that are born and living in those apartments. Adult children have grown up. Adult age kids have left the neighborhood, and so it's just mom and dad living there, and there aren't kids that are attending the schools.
Okay, I'm going to apologize, I can't do one more question.
Yeah.
I find this fascinating.
It is,
Just
yeah.
to my affection.
It's fascinating and scary and sad also.
Yeah,
You
that's,
to,
I have a million questions about that, but I won't ask those. I just wanted to know, I've always been very curious about the balance between private and public schools. Are there statistics that describe how many people, how many students go to public versus private in this, again, geographic district, CB1? Has it increased tremendously over the last 5 years, or do you have an analysis, a summary analysis to give on that?
Overwhelmingly in Community Board One, families choose public school. Overwhelmingly in Community Board One, families choose the New York City public schools versus charter schools. There are some families that choose charter schools and private schools, obviously, but the public schools in Community Board One are very popular. It's just that there aren't that many kids that are here. There are a few specialized programs. I actually don't know where PS 184 Shuangwen, whether or not that resides within Community Board 1 or not.
That was an overflow school when we had overcrowding.
Yeah,
We had kids going up there when we had 8 kindergartens
Yeah.
at 234.
yeah.
So I think that, yes, that was definitely on our radar and it's an excellent school.
It's an excellent school.
Yeah.
It's a specialized program, K through 8, Mandarin dual language. But it's hard to replicate or think that that is like the model that's going to attract and maintain kids in the district, because it's this specialized program. You have kids coming from all over the place to attend a school like that. And it's not just your regular zoned, high quality, grade school. We have those for sure. But some of these specialized programs do pull kids to them, and that does impact enrollment in the other schools. The same thing with gifted and talented.
I guess I just had the impression over the years that I've lived here where everybody and their brother wanted to get into 234. I remember being online at 3 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
to do so. And nowadays I find that many of the people I talk to, very different population, or at least my impression, very wealthy, often foreign. I never hear them talking about 234. I mean, I find many of these people have actually exited from the public school system. That's just an impression that probably not important from the statistics where all these people still are using these public schools, or is there a movement away in the Tribeca area from the public schools, or not necessarily?
Well, I can say that over the past 2 enrollment cycles, PS 234 has had to add 2 additional kindergarten classes in order to meet the need. So definitely enrollment dropped, but now we're seeing it increase.
Thank you.
Mark,
Thank you.
online?
Can you hear me?
Hello? Yes.
You can hear me? Okay. I had a question about the IA. Does it work both ways? In other words, obviously you don't want students using IA to write reports and whatnot. But what about the teachers or administration using IA to evaluate students for any reason or groups of students? What are the protocols on that?
Yeah, thanks very much for that. So the artificial intelligence policy will continue to expand and encompass more of these issues, but the new AI policy does specifically talk about how it is that, I'm looking at this thing here, I'm not sure if that's where he is. But the new AI policy does actually specifically detail how it is that teachers can use AI to evaluate students, write IEPs. It is really viewed as a tool that should be avoided in almost all cases in terms of being able to correct or grade students' work. There are some ways in which that is viewed as being okay, but it is suggested that if teachers are going to use AI to evaluate student work, that it is that teachers proceed cautiously and use secondary sources to evaluate work, not just rely solely on AI to do something.
I know how human behavior is, and I would suggest to you that in your guidelines to the teachers that it be more stringent and stronger than a suggestion that they not do it, that they are required to have human intervention as a backup for every kind of evaluation, because it's very dangerous and can be unfair, as we've seen almost every day in some sort of report in the news with IA.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yep, I agree.
Yeah, hi Kelly.
Hi.
I have a couple questions. And anecdotally, we got our first choice
All right.
assignment in middle school. So I was wondering, and some other parents were wondering, how has the issue of the migrant kids affected the enrollment in the district? Am I right to think that there's been actually a drop in some areas because of the displacement of migrant kids?
Yeah, that's actually really true. In fact, one of the things that I shared with our CEC a couple of months ago. The number of students from family seeking asylum has gone down significantly over the past year. From 2022 to the present year, we saw an enrollment of close to 5,500 admissions across District 2 only, not Community Program, but District 2 only. 5,500 admissions across the district. And in addition, if a student went to PS 33, but then transferred to PS 111, that would be counted as 2 admissions. So it's not necessarily we saw 5,500 kids, but 5,500 total admissions. Just for reference, in 2022, 2023, we had 1,500 unique admissions, 23, 24, over 1,700, and then for this current year, 700. So the number of admissions of students who are from family seeking asylum has dropped tremendously across the district over the past few years, or over the past year.
Yeah, and by the way, we had a very low bad lottery number, and we still got our
Okay.
Anecdotally, I would say, as far as people switching to private schools, because I know a lot of parents, private school is so expensive, especially if you have more than one child, so that there are parents who I know who might choose to go to private school, but it's a very small handful in my experience right now. I wanted to ask about what's the status of the gifted and talent programs moving forward in terms of the, I know that did they end the kindergarten GNT program or not?
Not yet.
Not yet.
And I don't know if it will. That is certainly something that the mayor campaigned on, but we haven't heard of a change in policy yet.
For the coming school year, they're still gonna have a
Yes.
gifted and talent kindergarten.
Yes.
I will pass that along.
Okay, yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
I've always been curious about how it works, Kelly, with class size reduction and admissions. Like, are they, because it's incumbent on the principals to accept and guess how many are going to come, and sometimes they get more students than they hope to get, and then they have a hard time moving those students. But, have they had a hard time with this situation? Are they taking less students as a result of these requirements? And if so, have there been any adjustments in per pupil funding so the schools have enough to operate?
So one of the rules that we have to work by right now is that we cannot accept a smaller incoming class, whether it's kindergarten or 6th grade or 9th grade. We cannot accept a smaller incoming class than previous years. So it is certainly a challenge though, because if you just, the math is trickier. So schools have to figure out how it is that they're going to accommodate the same number of students in the building. The one piece of this that we're currently in limbo a little bit with over the next 2 years, or over the next year, I'm sorry, because with the current pace of class size reduction in place is that since we need to be at 80% system-wide, we are not yet holding at these new smaller class size numbers. We are trying to achieve them, but if a new student moves into the zone and they become the 21st kindergartner, thus exceeding the 20 class size cap limit, we have to admit that student. And you know, if it's 5 sections of 20 and then you get student number 101, you're not necessarily going to be able to open a 6th class.
Correct.
Not just by size, but also you can't really fund a class based on one student. So it is it's a little bit messy right now. And some schools have seen classes and grade levels last year where they started the year in a good place with being able to meet class size reduction. And then they kind of like fluctuated a bit throughout the year if more students came or a student left. You know, when we get to this place where everybody has to meet the new numbers, it certainly will be a real additional, a real challenge for us.
And how they admit the same amount. I mean, the math isn't mathing. Like, you know, Claire walked into a class of 37 at Millennium.
Yeah.
And it was pretty shocking. And I think, you know, what Colin said at the time was, so, you know, I had put in for the same percentage as I put in the previous year, but there had been a run on the school.
Yeah.
You know, and what happened was he ended up with that, and then you can't tell people they can't go there.
Right.
And so it's incumbent on the staff to try to figure out how to, in the same amount of space, break these into sections. So if you're going from like 37 to 25, you know, figure out how to do a new section and hopefully have enough money to get a teacher, especially now that they have that on the floor. But like you said, if they're there, what do they do with them if these yields are off?
Yeah, I mean, and that is the case, right?
It's not the school's
yields,
fault, so
right?
they shouldn't be.
You don't hit the class size number.
You're not gonna hit the class size number, which is why I don't think it's realistic for them to fine the schools when they're not even in control of the yield.
Right, right. And I haven't yet heard about like, you know, schools being fined or anything like that, but it is, you know, even prior to this legislation being there, if you had a situation where you have 37 students, but the contract says you can only have 33, then, you know, that's a problem with the teachers union. That's a problem of certainly as a parent, I would much prefer my child be in a smaller class than be in a class of, you know, 37. And so there have always kind of been challenges that schools have needed to work out. And now we've got this, you know, kind of additional challenge to.
Have they changed the per pupil funding since they did this, or has it remained the same?
There have been some changes to fair student funding. There've been when Chancellor Banks was chancellor, there was additional funding that was allocated for students in temporary housing in the fair student funding formula. There hasn't been a new formula that's there. There haven't been major changes to the formula, right?
Gotcha. Crazy. Anybody else, Darryl?
Yeah, so, I'm also, like Morton, I can report to you more anecdotal evidence. My daughter got #1.
Okay, all right, good.
LMC.
Yeah, okay, anecdote, good choice.
My question is with the school calendar. It just came out today.
Yeah.
What is your view? And this is like, just looking forward. You're here. I want to ask a question. I know you don't make the calendar, or maybe you do. I don't know. You don't.
Kelly, you'll remember, that's
This is my
Daryl's question.
question.
I asked you,
So,
last year.
what is your view on these 2 days in June, and Chancellor Day, and then what is it, the anniversary day?
Yeah.
As far as I know, they're not religious in origin.
Right.
And New York City, and this is 20 years down the road, long after you and I are, you know, probably aren't in these
Yeah.
current seats,
Yeah.
but New York City's gonna add more religious holidays at some point, right? And we just added the Indian holiday, two years ago, right?
Muslim holidays.
And there's gonna be more, so we have to avoid going to school on July 1st, right? That's kind of my very, very long-term view. And what can we do with these 2 June holidays? Do they have to be there? Or, you know, can we condense them into one, like?
Yeah.
Because the people coming up behind us aren't gonna wanna go to school until July 1st.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be an issue, especially when we have a calendar like this where Labor Day starts on September 7th.
Right.
Or we start before Labor Day. And these are all the things we've been talking about, but. anyway.
Yeah.
I know there's a teachers union thing there, and it's not something we're gonna answer tonight, but what is your view on those two holidays?
Well, you saw that the new calendar, the last day of school is a Monday.
Yeah, Monday, June 28th.
Sure that that is something that everybody wanted to avoid.
Well, we had that a couple of years ago, when they moved
Yeah.
over years, anyway.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but.
I can't remember what ended up happening. Did people say like, you have to come back, or we actually did? I don't remember.
June 27th in 2022, I don't
Yeah.
remember, but, yeah, so, yeah, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, well, I can say that, the June days are helpful, to schools
Yeah.
in terms of being able to use them as professional learning days for adults, for the teachers and staff. One of the days also is it's a bit of a relic from,
Brooklyn Queens Uniting or something
well,
like that?
that was previous, was called Brooklyn Queens Day.
Yeah.
But that now is just called like the Chancellor's Conference Day.
Okay.
The other day is actually it's actually the history of it is a paperwork day, in which teachers got the students' cume file and transferred in with a pen on paper the number of days they were present and absent and their grades and different things like that, wrote a note to the next year's teacher that it was included as a part of their cume file. This is all, nobody does any of that anymore. It's all, kept on computers. So, but there has continued to be this paperwork day, record keeping, and maybe there's some of that is done. But it's negotiation primarily with the teachers union in order to figure out what to do with that day.
Because I'm not in the teachers union, I don't know, but they'd rather not
Be
get
there?
not go to school on that last Monday and get that. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
something you guys could talk about in the administration.
Right.
Now, who actually does the calendar? Is it like the mayor's office or is it the DOT?
It is
Who puts it together?
it's a real team of people.
Okay.
The chancellor's office has a team that works on it, but they are in partnership with members of the principals union, the teachers union, DC 37, which a lot of the different staff members in the school are a part of, and it needs to be cleared with everybody.
Well, thank you for that background.
Well, I wish I could provide more.
On the issue of LMC, I know you raised that, what is, about the issue with the parents, of the middle school wanting the LMC to go now through high school instead of the AI, high school that they want to move in there?
I was gonna do a report on that as soon as, at the end.
Oh, okay, so
Just quick question as it relates to scheduling. Have there been discussions in the past or more recent about somehow aligning public school and private school schedules?
I haven't heard of that before. I will say, one thing that has changed is the, in regard to middle school admissions, is that it used to be even later. The high school and middle school admissions came out, and there has been effort to try and push that up before families have to commit to private schools, but it's the only interaction that I've got it.
Yeah. What I was gonna say, Morton, is Kelly has been fantastic. He was at the meeting at the walkthrough and meeting at LNC. So helpful to have him there and supporting the school. And there was a hearing on the 14th, in addition to a CEC District 2 meeting, which I had a flu and I couldn't make it, so Kelly, I got him in the hall. And he said that that he felt as though there was a lot of support for our resolution there. I'm gonna circulate the resolution to everybody tomorrow. And I also wrote a letter, and the letter went to everybody at the PEP, it went to the mayor, and it went to everybody we met that day, who was there from the DOE planning department. That has been sent, I sent that yesterday to the, what you call them, the people who take the information before the final vote meeting, which is a week from tomorrow, that I will be attending also. And so that will go into the documents, and any of you can also write. If you go onto the panel for educational policy, you will see that meeting. And you will see the email address where you can send a letter giving people your wishes about what happens with this proposal. Which I want to have Lucy do a blast about it, actually, because I think a lot of people are, we had a huge turnout at LMC, but there's a lot of other parents that can't make these meetings that might not be aware of what's going on.
What is the timeline involved?
The timeline is they want to open this school in the fall.
I know that.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is the timeline to make the alterations? Would it be too late after the?
No, they insist that if they get approval on April 29th, that they're going to
Open the.
dive into action. And as soon as, Urban Assembly is still there going to school,
Yeah,
and they will finish on June
whatever,
28th.
whatever it is this year.
And then on June 29th, the DOE will go in and see what they can do. But, as I've found at the walkthrough, we've heard it, we've seen it, we did 2 walkthroughs, and I really want to say how impressed I am with the DOE team twice. Can I just say, like, in my tenure, 18-year tenure, I have never seen the DOE planning committee come to a walkthrough once, let alone twice. So that was impressive, as well as the panel for educational policy. They were there twice. So, so I think they were able to see firsthand how difficult moving around in that space is, and especially for a much, much larger school.
Well, my question is this, because, I'm a vice president of the Downtown Independent Democrats, and I actually drafted a resolution for our political group to support the high school alternative, the 6 to 12 alternative. And it hasn't come before our group to vote on it. How fast do we need to act to have?
Well,
it make
fast,
sense?
if
Yes,
April
correct.
29th is the day, right? If you want to make an impact, it has to be uploaded to that site before,
Before
I
it-
actually think they cut it off the night before. So I want to say it might be the 28th, which is a week from today,
Yeah.
at 6 o'clock. That's when they stopped taking testimony. I actually asked that woman whether you can speak that night. I can't remember the format of PET meetings, but.
There's a public speaking.
There is a public speaking, so I'll try and speak at it as
Are
well.
they in person or online?
It's in person, it's on Hester Street
Oh.
in Soho.
Your comment about, the bed showing up twice. Did they come to observe and listen, or did they come to defend?
I think they came, to be perfectly honest, I think they came in to defend and to check a box that they were there. I think some minds might have been changed as they walked the space, as they heard the parents. Parents, really, I have to hand it to them. They were organized, they were well-spoken, they had their strategy together, their presentation was quite beautiful. And they, made a powerful presentation, and I think the walkthrough was well organized, and I think, Shanna had to coordinate, the principal of LMC had to coordinate with the principals of the other 2 schools. She did a great job of doing that, so that we were able to see those shared spaces, the gym and the other rooms on the lower floor. So it couldn't have really gone better, and I think, reading, it was, your question required me to respond to body language because they didn't share anything with me, but I have to say, I think some minds were changed. The feedback I did get was from the PEP, and I know that many of their minds were changed. And that's the most important, really, because they're the ones voting. The DOE gets this much of a vote. It's really the mayor and I didn't understand this, but it's the mayor and panel for educational policy who are the major stakeholders in this decision. And the mayor wasn't there, and I think he had 1 representative there. But yeah.
So right now, the session on the 29th
Mhm.
is to vote on what I think is a DOE plan to put an AI high school
Correct.
in that space.
Yes,
Unless they get voted down, that's moving forward.
correct. It's a proposal. And then they have to present their educational impact statement, which is full of errors at the last reading. So I mean, they really aren't that organized and the curriculum isn't even, it's still in development. There's no principle. Like there are some big problems. I don't know why the rush for September. You know,
So
we'll have to see.
Just basically, the PEP meeting is on the 29th.
29th, 6 o'clock. And it's on the website, everybody, which is, kennefuleducationalpolicy.com. You can see the meeting tab and it'll have the meetings. There's several proposals going that night, just to warn you.
Might be a late one.
Yeah.
And sorry, this is probably a naive or an ignorant question, but you pointed out that the impact study or analysis has some glaring errors.
Yes.
Is that going to be obvious, or is it currently obvious to the people who are going to be voting on the 29th?
I think so, unless they correct it and submit it without me seeing it. But as of right now, the one that's sitting there is still the incorrect one, which has been brought to their attention 3 or 4 times. So again, I really question why the rush. I had the opportunity to speak to the high school district or high school superintendent as I was leaving the meeting. This is really his project.
Right, I remember that.
He's a Google fellow. When he did that fellowship, I think he was really enamored with this idea. And it has a lot of support, interestingly, in this group. Get this right, Tricia, community council for high schools, CCHS?
Citywide.
Citywide.
Council.
Yes, it seems to have a lot of support there, which is
What
curious.
is that agency?
It's kind of like it's not, they don't get a vote, but I will say it's a semi-powerful parent community lobby for high school students. Tammy and I took a meeting with one of the heads of it, and yeah, it was a pretty intense experience. And like, it wasn't a meeting to hear us, which is what I thought it was.
So they're in favor of the proposal.
Very much so. And of course, I'm sure they're lobbying the PEP just like we are. But I think a community board where the school is sitting and the experience that we have with the space, I think matters a lot.
And sorry, I know it's getting late, so last question. Do we know where our electeds stand on?
We do, we have full support. Yeah, we have full support. They've all written and followed up with each one of them. So, we'll see what happens. I think the right thing to do is to let LMC expand. That was back with Kelly's time where he had suggested that way back then. And I think they need to do the right thing here personally, you know how I feel. So we'll just see what happens, but I think everybody's done a great job. The petition has thousands of signatures. So it's one of the most well-organized, things we've been a part of in terms of lobbying, and we were successful on others. So
Thank you to you for.
I'm
what
staying
you've done.
really positive.
Yeah, you really jumped into action quickly on this.
Well, I mean, I remember what it was like. It can go really fast and it can run out of your grip before you know it. That media center at 346 Broadway will remain with me. They did it over the holidays. And that was brutal. We gave away a city building with nothing back for education, and that got my attention. So anyway, we have one quick final thing. Kelly, you've been here so long.
thank you.
and I can't thank you enough.
Sure.
You do not have to stay for this. We're just doing a safety resolution, but I just really want to thank you for coming. It's always especially nice to see you in
Yep.
person.
Nice to see you
So
too.
thanks for
Happy
making
to
it
come
through.
back anytime.
Thank you very much.
It's really, really important update. Appreciate it so much. All right, we have this is just a resolution supporting the mayor's, Sammy's Law initiative to lower the speed limit. It's pretty much a slam dunk. In fact, I don't think many people can drive more than 15 miles an hour in this particular spot. But just for the heck of it, let's pass this resolution. Has everybody had a chance to read it? want to thank Betty Kay, if she's still with us. She wrote it. I could take zero credit for this. So if anybody has any questions? No?
It's just, I mean, what's the enforcement here?
We're just supporting Sammy's law basically by saying we support lowering the speed limit to 15 miles an hour in this location.
Yeah, okay,
The enforcement is tickets,
yeah.
Yes.
which I've got,
On that strip?
not that street, but, you know, they're now taking photos and you get the ticket in the mail.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I've
if you-
done
if they have a-
25 in one of those 15.
Yeah, they have a speed limit camera at the location.
Which they're putting more and more of.
They are putting them. You get them a lot on West Street, as you go up.
I've gotten them for bus lanes and for 25 and a 15. Yeah.
Boy, that's a drag. That doesn't seem fair.
There's a bus lane on
I
Broadway.
two of the bus lanes, because I got into the bus lane to make the turn, and I was successful in fighting that. So it's a flaw in their system.
Yeah.
No, good for
You
you.
didn't go to the hearing or you did it online?
Went to the hearing.
Congratulations.
Yeah, those guys are rough.
When you do it
Right now.
online, I find you don't get a serious.
I did not get out of mine. He was mean. Anyway, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Resolution passes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We're done?
We're done.
So,
So you
I don't know
wanna
how
go
long
on
we're
council?
continuing this, but we should all username first next time.
Well, I would love to do that, because I think it's totally good for me, and it does make sense. Tammy's,
Everything you get number one.
the thing I wanted to talk to
So
you
my
about
number one might have been
is
my
the idea
nine.
behind this
You could have.
was it felt it wasn't fair to link
Yeah.
short to the meeting, and that was the reason to do it, and I thought, oh, no.
Everyone.
But do we really need to have those committees? Can we switch it off and do exactly what you just suggested?
It was great.
Uh,
That was a really.
Unless,
I think
well,
LMC was.
it's her reason for coupling us.